Right, that's on. Cool. All right, Sharpy, thank you for joining us at the Home Counties for this little interview. Um, how are you? How was your season? Obviously, you're very close to snatching that victory. How did it all go
Yeah,
last year?
yeah, no, it was a good year. All good, my end. Thanks, mate. We, yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say we probably bottled it. Really, I think that's been the talk of a lot of teams in the league and guys that I've caught up with is how we managed to lose it from the position we were in. But I think on the whole, we got to take it as a massive positive. I think if you'd offered us second place at the start of the year, we would have absolutely bitten your hand off for it. We sort of said going into it, if we can get a top half finish was probably our aim realistically last year, sort of mid-table top half, having kind of just fought out of the relegation battle the previous 2 or 3 seasons. But yeah, I think it's hard when you get so close and then obviously don't quite get over the line with a couple of poor results towards the back end of the season. But yeah, mate, it was a good year. Like, and I think everyone's learned something from it. And on the whole, we all had like such a good year on the pitch and off the pitch. So can't really complain, apart from the fact we haven't got a title to our names.
Well, it was interesting going into that final game that really any one of five teams could have won it, and it all really depended on each other. Did you feel
Yeah,
a bit of pressure going into that final game, or was it pretty much pressure off? Anything could happen.
I think as it's an interesting one. As a group, I think we probably felt a bit of pressure. I would say. I think if any of us said that we didn't, we'd be lying. But I think kind of the feedback that we got from everyone at the club, whether that be like guys in the committee, kind of guys in the lower teams, parents, whatever that was, it was all very much like you've done yourselves proud and you've had a good year. I think ultimately for us, we went out on that last game of the season to win the league and we didn't. But I think we probably put more pressure on ourselves the previous week, which no one really speaks about when we lost to Banbury at home, than we had to going into that final week, especially with you guys beating Henley on that penultimate game. Yeah, that kind of didn't help us really, but yeah, one of those things really.
Yeah, and you speak about kind of you've been a team that have been fighting relegation for a few years, but also been
Yeah.
a really strong team anyway. Was there anything different this year compared to previous years that allowed you to kind of push that top spot?
Yeah, I think, I mean, a massive obvious thing to say would be obviously Britz's contribution at the top of the order, along with Greg as well, actually. Obviously, losing both of them for the last sort of 3 or 4 games of the season, we wanted to do it even more so because we didn't want to kind of be renowned as a team that is relying on those two guys. Um, so, sorry, I just lost you there.
That's all right.
Do you want to go again? I don't know if you lost me there. Do you want to respond?
Yeah, yeah. What was it? What was the question?
What do we do differently? I think the question
Oh
was
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
So okay. Going from relegation spot in previous years that you've spoken about to then really fighting out for top spot this year, is there anything
Yeah,
that you did differently going into this season?
I think. I mean, one of the obvious things would be Britzy and Greg's contribution at the top of the order. I think Britzy was still in the top 2 or 3 run scorers in the league, even having missed the last 3 or 4 games, plus rained off games. And he's carried that form on back in South Africa. So hopefully we get him back. That was obviously a massive plus for us. I think the other thing as well, like we're kind of renowned as being one of the younger teams in the league, if not the youngest, probably on average. And I think those guys now that are 19, 20, 21 that have been in the league for 3, 4 years, they've got that experience now. So there's still a lot to learn from a lot of us, like myself included, and obviously a few of the older guys as well. But those guys being at uni and playing a good level of uni cricket or kind of spending a winter in Australia, whatever that might look like for them in the off season, having those guys come into the season that bit older, that bit more experience has made such a big difference the last year or
Mm.
two.
And going into next year, Tom Nugent spoke about how the Henley Winter Prep is more about the social side of it and gelling as a team rather than the actual kind of getting in the net side of it. Is that similar
Yeah.
or kind of almost opposite to you guys?
I think it's slightly opposite. I think the guys that are kind of, because the age that a lot of our boys are at, a lot of them are away, as I say, either at uni or there's a couple of lads in Australia this winter. It does become slightly tricky to socialise regularly in the off season. When we do get together, sort of we'll do something at Christmas and we'll do a couple of things before the season when the guys come back from uni, and we try and get a couple of training sessions in as a first team group, sort of the 13, 14 of us in pre-season when they're all back. A lot of it for us is kind of based on individual skills, I'd say. So actually just making sure wherever you're training, just getting your work done really. And it'll be nice for us this year that there are sort of 4 or 5 of us that are local. Obviously, I'm sure the question will come in a bit, but Marlesy obviously signing, him being local, myself, Woody, Ben Salter. There's a few others that are all sort of local to the area, so we can train together. Whereas the previous sort of 2, 3 winters, there's only been 1 or 2 first team players at training really, because everyone else is off doing their own thing and enjoying student life, I think, mainly.
Yeah, and I think as you said, kind of gelling together, but also doing those individual skills are really, really important.
Yeah,
Um, you alluded to there. You've obviously got a few changes for next year.
yeah,
Who are they? What are you looking to do?
yeah. So we bought Milesy in. He's obviously been away from the club for sort of 6, 7 years now with you guys at Wickham. I think he's going to be a massive, massive signing for us. Like Milesy, has been such a high performer in the league for a number of years now and been really consistent in his performances. I think that's something that we crave as a team. Being a younger team, we have guys that can go out and get big scores on match winning innings, but not necessarily currently doing it on a weekly basis. Whereas I feel like Miles, he's quite a solid person to have in your top 4 or 5. So he's a big sign in, and obviously I've known Milesy for a long, long time before I sort of even started playing senior cricket. Really, I knew him, so I think we're all looking forward to having him back. And then we brought in a lad called Eddie Campion as well, who he's kind of been playing his club cricket up in Surrey last year, but been on the Middlesex Academy for sort of 2, 3 years and was pretty unlucky not to get a contract, I think. But he'll come in as a left arm spinner and a middle order batter, like middle lower order batter. So that should strengthen us up in both kind of sides with bat and ball, which is like a massive signing for us. And it was something that we wanted to do, was bring in another spinner to kind of complement Sam. And then you've got the option of Woody and a few others that can bowl overs as well. So yeah.
And with that signing of Miles, and obviously with Britz in such fine form, both kind of in the UK and as you said, in South Africa as well, do you think that enables your kind of mid order to play a bit more freely, knowing how kind of consistent those two are?
I think so. I think even it showed last year. And I mean, there was obviously the game that we played over at your place was quite a good example of it, really. Like Britz, he kind of, anchored the innings really nicely and came away with, I believe he got a ton that game, or he definitely got a big score. I can't remember what he got exactly. But the contributions from the guys coming in at 4, 5, 6, 7 to be able to come in and kind of go at it and play their natural game and, being able to go in and bat how you want to is massive. And that's something that we really try and push as a group is as long as you practice it and you're trying to drill things. If you get out reverse sweeping, but you do it 20 times in the nets in the week, then no one's going to have an issue with it. And I think we've kind of got into a position now where in previous years, maybe where we struggled, some of the shot selections that people got out to, you kind of question it. Whereas now actually we're trying to let people be a bit more expansive and express themselves. And it really paid off last year in a lot of games. So having Milesy added to that as well just gives those guys that little bit more confidence to be able to go in and play their natural game.
Mm. And now that we're bringing in new players from different leagues, it feels like there's a big generational shift, a bit of a skill shift across league. Do you think the home counties Div 1 is becoming a higher standard to compete in, and so people are having to kind of take an attitude that's more of a professional attitude than previous years?
I think so. Like I've only obviously been in the top league in Div 1 for sort of the last 4 years, 4 or 5 years. So I can't really comment on what happened before that other than looking in from the outside. I think the big thing that kind of the niche that home counties has in comparison to the other leagues is we might not have those kind of big pro names that the Surrey and the Middlesex League can pull out every now and then, but it is just a case of them playing 3, 4 games. Whereas every week you look through some of the teams in our league and you've got, teams that are fielding 7, 8 minor counties players with pros chucked in there. You look at, like Wargrave, for example, you've got 4 or 5 guys there that are regular players, of which 2 or 3 have played professional cricket as well. Some like Sturge obviously played this year. So I think that's a massive thing for the league that we have got a big strength and depth. And with the national counties growing as it is as well, and the standard of that growing, I think that's only helping our league get stronger and stronger. So yeah, I can't comment. I've not played in any other league, so I don't really know. But I think it's kind of a conversation I have with some of my mates that play in the Surrey League as to whose league is stronger. And I'd like to think that the top end of the home counties definitely competes, I think, in most leagues nationally.
Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. And I think the standard I think I've played in the Prem for at least the last 8 years
Yeah,
consistently, and I do think it's going from strength to strength to strength. And I think more it's consistently good players. It's not just like you said that one or two, but really
yeah,
you're fielding teams which now have kind of 9, 10, 11 really consistently good players.
yeah.
Um, Kind of with that in mind, and with the strength of the home counties growing, is there anything you're going to look to do differently next year that you didn't quite get this year, get right?
I think from a like training perspective and things like that off the field, so kind of away from a match day, I do think we get it right, and we do get a little bit of a bad rap in the league as like being the sort of the young lads that enjoy a beer, but actually we've kind of prided ourselves in being able to have a good time. And I think the thing that frustrates us as a group is that actually people don't see the work that gets put in the week. We have a good time and we can be, don't get it wrong, I know that we're a very annoying team to play against because we're very gobby and young, and you've got some lads that have quite a lot to say for themselves, including myself, to be fair. Um, but yeah, I think from a training perspective, we kind of, I feel like we hit the nail on the head this year. Like we made the sessions as competitive as possible. That was like the big theme of the season. So every time, whether that's even just doing like a catching drill or a fielding drill, everything's done with a competitive element. Like a five-a-side kick around at the start of training is still competitive. So you're trying to get everyone really competing with each other. So I think we're going to try and follow that model, again.
Mm.
On the pitch, I think we had a pretty simple kind of game plan, which Britzy bought, which was one of the batters needs to face 100 balls, bowlers need to bowl as many dots as possible at the stumps. And actually, it sounds really, really simple. And obviously, there's times where you have to move away from that and adapt slightly. But actually, as a base model, that was really good for us as a young group, is just having clear expectations of what's required of you from a batting and bowling perspective. So I don't think we'll change too much. Whether Marlesy coming in with a bit of experience and guys going away again this winter have like people offer different kind of experiences and opinions on things, we'll wait and see. But as it stands, I think we'll probably try and keep it the same really, and just having that experience of what happened towards the back end of last year, if we're in a similar position next year, hopefully we can actually get over the line and not bottle it basically.
Is there anyone that you're particularly looking forward to playing against next year?
I always love coming over to your place. I think it'll obviously be different since not playing against Marlesy and Cal and people like that. I think that's always like quite a good. I love bowling at Elliot. Like I think we have quite a good relationship in terms of on the pitch. We're pretty competitive, but off it we have a good laugh. So I love coming over to Wickham. I think Henley, there's definitely going to be a bit of unfinished business there, and there are a few things that maybe got a little bit fiery towards the end of that game last year. So that'll be an interesting one. But look, we get on well with most of the teams, and Henley are in a similar position to us, with they've got a lot of young lads and a lot of our boys played with their boys growing up. So it's all kind of done in the right tone, if you like, which is good. I think like you want to be competitive on the pitch, but as long as you can walk off after and have a beer and shake hands and have a good time. I'm interested to play Stoke Green. Played against them in the Thames Valley a few years ago. It'll be interesting to see how that is, because I think their wicket can occasionally do some interesting things. So I think we'll be doing a bit of work against spin in the build up to that. But yeah, it's nice playing against the same guys every year and kind of getting to know people better. But it is also interesting when new guys come into the league. So I haven't seen an awful lot of kind of the guys coming into the league yet in terms of on social media and stuff. But we'll wait and see and just take it from there, really.
We were talking with Crofty earlier, and they're looking to make 3 or 4 changes coming into the season. I haven't heard much about Stoke Green yet, but how would you deal with being a new team coming into the league?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's hard. I think generally speaking, your big teams to play against, your Wickhams, your Henleys, your Wargraves. They're going to be tough places to go and win games of cricket. So I think as much as possible, it's trying to, like I said earlier, with kind of the model that we've tried to follow this year, it's just trying to be able to express yourself and stick to your own brand of cricket, and however that looks. I think don't go into it kind of looking as where my first year in the league, when we kind of just stayed up last game of the season, it was very much like a point here, a point there. But actually, I think if you're playing in that league, you've got to back yourself to win games, and that's how you get yourself out of trouble or actually push your way up the table. So yeah, I think just trying to take it game by game and and play positive cricket that resonates with your brand of cricket. Really, would be my kind of thing. Really.
Cool. Right. Well, that's the end of that section. So thanks for
Okay.
that.
That's
We'll
all right.
move on. We'll move on to some interesting questions. So get ready to abuse your fellow teammates.
Okay.
I'm going to ask the same first question I've asked every club so far,
Yeah.
and that's who is the last person into the bar?
Okay. So I actually had a conversation with the boys about this the other day, and I think a lot of them will be commenting that I never buy around, which is just the biggest load of shit ever. I don't know if I can swear, but
You could swear.
yeah. So that's just a load of bullshit. But there's a couple of younger lads that are pretty hesitant to get around in. Ben Salter, I don't think I've ever seen buy around. James Isbell is underage, so he legally can't. But again, just a round of cokes wouldn't go amiss, or a couple of Fantas. Michael O'Donoghue, probably. He spends more time doing his hair than actually like getting himself ready and into the bar and having a beer. So yeah, probably one of those two or three.
Okay. Who is the best looking, but also who's the worst looking bloke in the team?
Okay, that's Michael O'Donoghue is the best looking bloke. I would go as far as to say that he's probably one of the best looking blokes in the league. He's currently in Australia, in Sydney. His missus is there with him, so I'm not going to say too much, but I'm sure he's having a good time out there. Worst looking, I hate to do it to him, but it's got to be Liam Bultill.
Why?
His nick, why? I mean, he's got a couple of nicknames. One's the Potato Smiley, one's Jaws. So yeah, there's a couple in there. I feel bad saying it, but I don't think anyone's going to be disagreeing with me.
Bless him. Okay. You're on a desert island. Who's the first to be voted off and why?
So I heard this question the other day, and there's two people that spring to mind. One would be Salts, just because I think like he would add loads of value from the comedy aspect, but when it actually got tough and you had to survive, I think he's the last person you'd want to be with. Or Jed Carrera, I would say. I feel like JC is probably not going to offer you much, and I think he'd just moan a bit when it gets a bit tough. So,
nice, I like that. That's a good answer. Who is the most likely to forget their kit on game day?
well, I would probably go with Jed again. However, I'm pretty sure Liam Bultill did actually forget his kit one game, so I'm going to have to go with Liam for that one again, I think.
Okay. Who always comes up with an excuse why they weren't out?
There's again, I'm bottling it. We're not giving one answer here, but it's probably got to be either Predge or Jed again. And I feel like Jed was probably expecting to be answered for a lot of these, but JC over the years of playing with him the last 4 years has come out with some worldy excuses as to why he wasn't out. Or I think there was a game at your place a few years ago where all 21 people on the pitch, the 10 of us sat in the clubhouse, plus the 50 people around watching thought he was out, but Jed had the biggest blow up ever and didn't think he was out. So he's a classic. Predge likes a bit of an excuse as well. Generally, when he gets caught mid off, as to, it was indoors at 6, that sort of thing. Like, just hit it over him, mate, rather than hitting it down his throat. So yeah, one of those two probably.
All right. Who's got the best and worst chat on a night out and on the cricket field?
Okay, on the pitch, I'd say I've probably got the worst chat. I think it's pretty relentless. And yeah, at times I maybe push the line a little bit. So I would probably say I've got the worst on the pitch. Best on the pitch. I quite like Britz's chat at times. Britz's doesn't say a lot, but when he does say stuff, it's usually like it's with purpose and it's like Afrikaans, South African tones. I'd be shitting myself if I was the batter at the other end anyway. I don't know about the opposition, but he's usually quite a good one. And then off the pitch, like on a night out, worst chat, probably Ben Salter, to be honest. Like I've seen him chat to a few girls. I went on holiday with him to Spain in the summer, and yeah, it was one of the most brutal rejections I've ever seen in my life, to be honest, the bar we were sat in. But poor lad tried his best. Best chat on a night out is probably Ben Moffat. Moff has quite a good way with way with words, to be honest. Like he's got a pretty good success rate from when we've been out. Obviously, he's got a missus now as well, so he's on best behaviour, obviously. But yeah, in the past, he offers quite a lot on a night out, so his chat's pretty good.
Okay. Who is the worst dressed cricketer in your team?
Worst dressed. I think it depends on the scenario, really. I think Jed Carrera is a nightmare for stealing other people's stash. So the number of times that he'll rock up wearing either one of his pro mates kit or, he turned up in one of my coaching tops that I lent him about a year and a half ago and wondered where it was. And he turned up to that to train in that this season. So he's pretty guilty of like just in a pretty casual setting, just turn up in some road gears. On a night out, well, that's a tough one. It's probably James Isbell, to be honest, which is a bit harsh picking on the young lad, but he's got some pretty awful gears that he's been seen in around the club. So yeah.
Okay. If Finch were to create a boy band, who would be your lead singer?
Are we going on aesthetics or are we going on vocals?
Whatever you'd like.
Looks, it's got to be Michael O'Donoghue because I think you get the crowds in. Vocals, I'd have to go Stuart Parsons. We do a karaoke at the end of the season every year, and Parsons' rendition of "Senorita" by Justin Timberlake is something to it's quite a spectacle. He's got a lovely set of pipes in him, to be fair.
Bless him. Okay, let's come up with a few more. Have you got any others that we can think of?
I'm trying to think.
There's my go-to. Oh, who's got the worst haircut in the team?
Well, I'm probably going to have to throw myself in the ranks here because I do get quite a lot of stick for it. I personally think it's just quite a normal haircut, but I get a lot of stick for it. It's just picking on the older bloke, I think. But there was a bad one this year where Salts decided to go for a buzz cut, which initially it kind of worked, but then I think the shout of him looking like Izzy Wong when it started to grow out probably wasn't what he was looking for. So yeah, Salts' lid's not great. Or Moth's hair's pretty awful as well. Kind of looks like he's just woken up every time I see him. So it's just a bit of a mop, really.
Okay. And final one, you said a lot about JC this call. Have you got any final words for him?
For JC?
Yeah.
I've got plenty of words for him. I don't know how many I'm going to be able to say on this. Just behave yourself at uni, mate. Make sure you stay in the gym and work hard. And just make sure you wash your bed sheets.
Lovely. We'll finish on that one. That's going to be we'll clip that right at the start and hopefully that will hook some people in.
God.
He's going to love that.
Have you finished recording now?
No, I can do, or I can carry on.
Well, I can say this, but just don't include it.
Okay, hang on, let me